The unseen made us transfer to a new home. I was born in a city, but I spent all of my years growing up in a rural area. I was happy to experience childhood in my first home. Although we live in a rural area, the houses are not that far from each other since we live in a subdivision. Our house is located in a corner lot which also seems to be the boundary of our subdivision. At the back of our house is a police training facility where a belit tree is also located across my house. My father was already been informed by a local albulario, which doctor, that our house is a passageway for the unseen creatures since the belit tree is planted in line with our house. I was not blessed with the gift to see the unseen, but I am no stranger to creepy experiences that happened in my house. My grandma, when she is still alive, saw a white lady almost every time she smoked her tobacco in the wee hours of the night. She said the lady keeps on getting her attention, yet she knows she meant no harm. My uncle also saw a creature in our house during his stay in our house, but he won't tell us what he saw. My brother and I were also not spared by these unseen creatures. We decided to sleep in our living room, so we won't disturb my parents because it is summertime that time and we plan to play video games and watch movies all night. Our activities were stopped when some creature keeps on running around our house. At first, we thought it was our dog, but when I checked through our window, our dog was safely sleeping in her kennel house, which is locked. The running went on and on for 5 minutes until it stopped, but as it stops, we heard our screen door opened. We have 2 doors, which was put together to have some ventilation and not having insects go inside your house at the same time. As we noticed our screen door opened, we heard scratches on our wooden door, which seems like someone or something is trying to enter. I bravely checked through our window to see who or what was scratching our wooden door, but to my dismay I found nothing. We went to my father since he was having his vacation that time, and he went out to check, but he only felt someone or something was checking on him by our tree, but he wasn't able to see it. Apart from me and my brothers experienced the usual creepy scenarios that were experienced by us, and the people who come to my house range from eerie feelings up to apparitions. So, my family just let it slide since it is not yet that big of a deal. What made my family bothered was the time when some unseen creature took interest in my mom. My mom is a housewife. She left her job to take of me and my sibling full time. When we are at school, she is always alone in our house since my dad is a seafarer and just comes home 2 to 4 months per year. Her experiences were no joke. She didn't tell us at first because she is also in denial or not that aware of what is happening to her, but this was not held for too long since her experiences went from tolerable to unbearable. According to her, it started as an eerie feeling whenever she is having her siesta. She always felt someone watching her from our window. This went on and on until the unseen become more and more aggressive. After a week of these eerie vibes when she's having her siesta, she then started to feel light and dizzy before dozing off. Her last straw happened at a time she felt sleepy but was not yet asleep. She felt dizzy and light, so she planned to get up to ask our neighbor what the remedy for her before siesta dizziness is. When she actually did get up, she felt like her bed fell. It was odd because when she thought about it, it's like her bed was floating. That's why she felt light or dizzy. She consulted our local albulario. He told us that an encanto, elemental beings, took a liking to my mother. And he explained the only way for it to be stopped is through offerings. We offered a native chicken's egg outside our house. Her eerie experiences and dizziness stopped, but when my father came home that year, he was then the target of the unseen creatures. He was always staying up late since he plans to take an exam for him to get his rank higher. He always felt something is watching him from our window. He usually shrugged it off since whenever he checked the window there is no one or nothing. One night as he goes outside in our backyard to pee, he noticed a man wearing a barong Tagalog standing underneath our Indian mango tree. He was not able to move or apprehend the person he saw since he was aware he is not a human or a living one. He kept on mumbling a prayer, "Our Father," and kept on brushing his eyes so he can confirm that what he was seeing is real. As he kept on brushing his eyes while praying, the creature didn't vanish for a while. He said it only started to vanish as he finished his prayer and took steps closer to that being. After that incident, he consulted our local albulario again. This time, he suggested we spray a pinch of salt in every part of our house and pray one Our Father, one Hail Mary and one Glory Be before we sleep. My brother and I did that ritual every night until the day my parents have decided it is time for us to transfer to an urban area since me and my brother also started to go to a school which is located in a city. The only experience we then heard from the family who bought our house started when they decided to cut the Indian mango tree that was planted in our backyard. All of them started to get sick, simultaneously one after another. I really didn't understand at first because I thought the creatures were just passing through our house and they live in that belit tree, but we also thought some of them may have transferred to the Indian mango tree that was planted in our backyard. The end. Room S019. For many, having a friend with open third eye is much of an adventure, but for me, it is the opposite. Way back in college, I was a mass communication student in a university in the city of Pines. Our classes were mostly held in the basement of the science building we often called the dungeon because of its location. Room S019, Mass Communication Laboratory, was the room assigned to us. It was a medium-sized classroom with seats similar to that of a movie house or an auditorium. At the back part of the room was the control booth where most of the mass comm equipment were stocked. At first, I found no unusual instances in that classroom, but I did not want to stay there alone because of unexplainable eerie feeling. The room was unusually cold, like that of an air-conditioned room, although we only had wall fans and exhaust fans as ventilation there. One day, I was 30 minutes early for my class at S019, so I decided to stay outside until one of my classmates arrived. We entered the room with me seated in front while my classmate was at the back portion of the room. I was reading my notes then when my classmate screamed and pointed at something near me.
Umalis ka dyan. Umalis ka dyan.
Move out. Move out, my classmate kept on saying while pointing at an invisible something near me or beside me. Despite my confusion, I stood up and went to a corner of the room. But my classmate was more hysterical this time. She stood up and told me to go out of the room with her. So, that was what I did. Few hours later, some of my classmates were conversing about a horror story they've experienced. We were in a classroom in the second floor then, waiting for our professor to arrive. My classmate who screamed related that while I was sitting at room S019, she saw a limping man in barong Tagalog seated beside me and was about to strangle me, so she shouted at me. When I went to a corner, she related, there was another man with knife there trying to stab me. I also learned that my classmate had an open third eye. As for the history of the room, it was one of the areas with most casualties during the 1990 earthquake. Many other students testified on the existence of the limping man who was living in the basement. Room S019 was renovated and made into a regular lecture/laboratory and production room for mass comm students. Lullaby. It happened last 2004 in our old house in Bolinao, Pangasinan. I never been there for many years because our family is based in Mandaluyong City. I heard a lot of creepy stories about this 1970s house. As a happy-go-lucky gay person, I just ignore it. Anyway, I have with my other gay friends also living in that creepy house of ours. Since it's too big, we have it rented some rooms, and in front of it is commercial area, so there is some store and bars there. A lot of our tenants always complain of ghosts always bothering them, especially during night and sleeping time. That ghost always has its ways of disturbing you. Well, I am surrounded by gay friends, and you know gays are loud and happy. Then this is how my ghost experience began. Right at the moment I arrived at that house all the way from Mandaluyong, my mom showed me my room. Then my mom left. As I'm about to take a nap and rest, there is sound like there is stoning the window of my room outside. It's like a sound of small stone from the glass of the window, but I can hardly sleep because once I close my eyes it happens all over again. I heard the stone from my window, but there's no sign of someone is doing it because outside the window is facing a wall overlooking the neighbor's Spanish old house, but there is no one there. It is only when I heard my mom and my aunt talking about the ghost that always stoning the window to disturb you, and that only means that you are not welcome in that house. Now I know that there is a ghost in that house. I always tell them that please don't disturb me. But sometimes it happens again, so I thought that this ghost just playing around. Then this about one evening around 8 p.m. I tried to sleep upstairs since there is 5 rooms there all unoccupied. I saw my 6-month-old cousin sleeping at the other room. I chose to sleep to the room close to the altar. But when I'm about to close my eyes, I heard coins. I don't know if tossing or thrown to the floor. I heard chairs moved from one place to another, the doors of cabinet from the other room open and close. I just thought that some of my friends just arrived. But I was surprised that the only person upstairs is my baby cousin and me. Then a whisper, please let me sleep for a minute. But it all became worse, so I decided to sleep downstairs. One afternoon my friend and I are talking and laughing very loud. Then suddenly we heard someone is using the bathroom when we all know that nobody is inside. We really heard the faucet is opening and flushing. Then I told my friend, see what I mean, then we ran as fast as we can. Then this is the scariest I ever experienced in that house. It's about 2 a.m. and me and my gay friends are about to go home from our gimmicks. But my friend came home with this guy he met at the party. I saw them gone to the darkest part of the garden, then I shouted to them.
Bakla ka, ayaw ng multo ng may bisita nagagalit, magtabi-tabi ka.
Then after their sensual session, the guy was about to leave when we heard this voice of a woman like singing a lullaby to her child. We heard it like the woman was just in front of us. At first I just ignore it because I don't want my friend to get scared, but he looked at me without batting his eyelashes and asked me if I heard it. No words came from my mouth. Then we ran as fast as we can until we reached our room, woke up our other colleagues and told them what happened. They only replied,
Ayan, makakati kasi kayo na ayaw nga niya ng may bisita.
A white dog. I am a nurse who currently works in one of the biggest hospitals here in the Philippines. Being a nurse entitles us to go to work in shifts of 8 hours daily. I came across this site during one of my dull moments in the hospital using my laptop one of our breaks. After reading some of the stories here, I was interested enough to share one of my own experiences. When I was still a college student 5 years ago, we used to have clinical duties in different locations somewhere in Luzon areas here in the Philippines. Being a nursing student, it was considered to be a requirement for us to finish at least 2 weeks of hospital duty in one location before being assigned to another new one. My experience happened during one of these times. Our duty in the hospital that time was somewhere in Ilocos. It was a district hospital near the main highway. It was situated in a small town near the sea. Our assigned duty was 4 p.m. to 12 midnight. Since we were originally from Baguio, which is at least 3 hours by bus, we decided to stay at a house near the hospital for the duration of our duty. During the third day of our hospital duty, as we were coming home at past 12 midnight, my classmates and I with 2 of our CIs, clinical instructor, were walking along a narrow path towards the house when my CI suddenly grabbed my elbow. I was startled, so I asked him, "Sir, what's the matter?" He replied that, "There's a dog following us." Sure enough, when I looked behind me, I saw a white dog following us not more than 3 feet away. Thinking that my CI, clinical instructor, was scared of dogs, I just told him that I'll switch places with him, so I'll be the last in line instead of him. I haven't looked more than 3 seconds when all of a sudden, as I looked again where the dog was, I was surprised to see that he was nowhere to be found. It was like he vanished with no trace at all. That left me perplexed because the right side of the path we were walking was a fence made of bamboo at least 5 feet tall. The left side of our path was just a bare area of land with no bushes or trees to hide from view. This made me think that the dog couldn't possibly left without a trace for no more than 3 seconds without us seeing where it went. I was suddenly alarmed that I told my instructor, "Sir, the dog that was following us suddenly vanished." My instructor told me that now is not the time to tell jokes, but I told him that I was serious. We both looked at each other, becoming afraid, prompting the group ahead of us to hurry. We decided not to tell them of what happened since all of them were busy talking and laughing with one another while we were walking. Another CI who was with us noticed our faces and asked us what was wrong. We told him of what happened, and he suddenly surprised us when he shrugged and said, "I also saw the dog following us. I thought it was a normal dog until I saw that its shadow seems to be taking a different shape and growing larger. I became nervous, that's why I went ahead of you two and didn't tell you. I didn't realize that you'll see it too." The 3 of us looked at each other with fear in our eyes and decided to retire for the night with all of our doors locked and bolted. Fortunately, nothing untoward happened to our group after that incident. Thank you for reading my story. Until now, I'm still thinking if it's really a dog or some kind of creature. I still puzzle me to this day how the dog just suddenly disappeared. I still have plenty of experiences since then and will be sharing them to all of you. Till next time. Sensitivity of a child. It just turned Halloween this 2011 and I just found out that there's this kind of site which shares real supernatural stories mostly in the Philippines, and the way each story I read encourages to share my story too. I have lots to share, but I'll make it step by step starting from my first time. So here goes. I live in a city located in the northern part of Mindanao. Way back in the 90s, our house was made of wood, maybe from Nara tree because of its strength. 2 floors and is located right in front of the road where jeepneys pass by. My grandmother said that the house was too old, that their parents also lived in that house. Note that my grandmother was in her 70s that time. We were kind of a late bloomer because our neighbors' houses are made of concrete painted well and have colors. Unlike ours that stayed old school. I grew up like an ignorant kid. My parents didn't expose me that much to the real world, the meaning behind metaphors and things that arouses my fears, like I didn't know what fraternity means until I was second year high school. Anyway, on the first floor is where the kitchen is, then the dining room. In the dining room there is a door that leads outside. Outside it is where the pig and pig pens are, family business. Next to the dining room is the living room, and there's also a door that leads outside opposite to the other one. Outside is the garden. On the second, when you reach the top stair, is a bedroom. Go left then go right is another bedroom. From the stairs, go right and another right is where our room is. I know it's kind of complicated, but there are many of us in the house. That time, 3 or 4 family would stay in the house. It's because my father has 7 sisters and 2 brothers, so that makes 10 of them, and my other aunts just live 2 blocks away from the house. I know you're bored reading this, so I'll go to the interesting one. It was night and everybody in the house was asleep. I woke up, like I usually do, to pee. And right outside my room is an areola, something like a pot where I pee during nighttime, because our comfort room is located outside the house and it's a long walk. Right where the areola is windows where you can see the road and the pig pens and the mango tree. It just so happens that every night I pee, I see this lady sitting near the mango tree. Sometimes, near the pig pens or almost near the house of our neighbor. Being ignorant of what or who they are, I didn't mind and just tell my mother about that woman the next morning. My mother just asks me what she was doing, and I answer just standing or sitting. I didn't know that everybody in the house also saw that woman at times until I was older. There was just this one time when I forgot to wash the areola, and I left it in the comfort room. And because one night I really had to go, I went out the door in the living room that leads outside. As I was relieving myself, she was there. Right beside the orchids of my aunt. I didn't know it was scary, so I didn't mind, but I couldn't forget her face. She was beautiful. Hazel eyes, pointed nose, fair complexion and long black hair. She was wearing a dress that's like a carinosa, those dresses which have bumps on the shoulders. The only sad thing about it is when I had the knowledge about ghosts and spirits, I never saw since then. I know my story was quite boring, but I'll be telling more of my experiences next time. Thank you for this encouraging site, whoever started this. In Valley Gulf. Mel Gibson, Braveheart, Menudo, Spanish-inspired Filipino dish, sleepover. Indeed, when you ask me to make a Venn diagram, goosebumps will lurk around again. Almost 1 year to be exact, yet I can still remember that stayover that almost killed me. So here goes my story. February 2011, we were assigned to watch 2 Mel Gibson films, The Braveheart and The Patriot. In some practical reasons, we just decided to wrap our bags up and just stay over Michi's place, which was in Valley Gulf, Quinta, Rizal, a good confidant and the owner of the place. We then thought to fix our things and prepare for a movie night. As we were about to watch the flick, and after finishing our dish, which was menudo, we started passing a glass of cocktail and enjoyed watching Edinburgh's Pride, Mel Gibson. 1 o'clock, the clock struck, we finally dozed off and dressed up with our PJs. As I heard my peeps already snoring, I knew that something wrong was already happening. I really felt my blanket was moving, as if someone was tugging it out from me. I felt chills rushing through my veins. At first, I thought it was just one of my gals, who was probably launching off to the slumberland, but alas. How could my girlfriend tug the blanket out of me downward when she's busy snoring beside me? Panicky, my spirit was. I even cried when I heard the door opened and saw two people walking past by me. I was sure they passed by the wall where I was exactly facing. They then stood in front of my feet and smiled at us. They were wearing black suit, yet I wasn't sure if they were both men. I was palpitating already when one of them decided to take a seat. That was it. I spoke unto myself. Enough was enough. I did bang the door so loud that my pals woke up and saw me bewildered. They gave me a glass of water and asked me what happened. I did sweat a lot and cried. I did not tell them what happened and just went back to sleep. Morning came, but no one could talk to me. I was staring blankly. Suddenly, Michi had the balls to ask me what really happened. I decided to tell them what transpired that night. She smiled a bit and told me.
Kaya nga nagtataka ako ba't doon ka natulog sa tabi ng pinto, doon lagi naglalakad yung mga dumadalaw sa akin sa gabi. Minsan nga hanggang sa magising ako, nandun sila, pareho.
I wondered why you chose to sleep beside the door. They always walk past that way. Sometimes, I'd see them still here until I wake up. I just decided to finish my bread and waited until afternoon came. I never went back to that place again.